Hey, I'm Cary Smith, and I'm sitting here with Amar Shah. We're with Client First Capital. And Amar, you recently wrote an article about downsizing in retirement, right? Selling the family home and getting something smaller. And on the surface, to me, that seems like a no-brainer, right? We're empty nesters. We don't need the space. We can possibly save on maintenance and leverage the equity in our home. But in your article, you say not so fast. So, what are some of the considerations a person would have prior to downsizing and selling their family home?
Yeah, absolutely, Carrie. A lot of times, for most Americans, they have downsized their house to help pay for or supplement retirement. But as lending costs have risen, as transition costs into senior living has also risen, sometimes that hasn't been the most or best financial decision, right? So there's a financial component. There's also an emotional component, being that memories, someone's self-being, their self-worth, sometimes tied into their house. I know I have a lot of clients that have beautiful gardens and in retirement spend a lot of time on their garden, and downsizing to a condo and having a shared HOA community feel it's probably not the best for them. But also, it keeps stronger family ties. Family members come back to the family home. There could be different types of living situations with multi generational families. There could also be a gathering place. Um, Sometimes kids are not doing as financially well, or they have a smaller house, even if they are doing financially well, and so the space becomes a gathering for families.
Yeah, it does. I've shared with you a story, where I had some family members were traveling across the country. It was my niece and some of her friends, and they wanted to use our house as a hotel and stay with us. What we thought was going to be overnight, right? But after 3 or 4 days, I remember us asking them how long they were going to stay. But at the same time, it's kind of nice to have that flexibility, right? To be able to have the space to have family around.
Yeah, especially when you're getting into the next chapter of your life, hosting people, hosting family members, becomes a bigger part of the equation in your social structure, right? And I think that sometimes people just look at, oh, I'm going to downsize because I'm going to save so much cost, but they don't see the other cost of not being able to do the things that they want to do.
Yeah. Also imagine for some, this is probably a very emotional decision. In my mind, I can see, tears at closing and tears maybe at the final walkthrough through the house and just, raising the family and just all the memories that can be, in the family home. And just what are your thoughts on just kind of the emotional take of selling the family home?
Yeah, there are definitely sentimental attachments to a house. I mean, there's so many memories made in the house at the kitchen table and whatnot. I look at my own house, which is, fairly old in its own right and needing some significant work. But where my daughters sleep, we have a door jamb and we have notches at every 6 months of how tall they are, right? And leaving a house where you have those type of memories or milestones that are achieved is very difficult. I find that for individuals that age in place, that stay in their house, for the next generation, it's also harder to clean out the house and do all those things because of all those emotional memories, right? And so it's not just bricks and mortar. There's a lot of memories there, and for most people, that will be the hardest thing to overcome once they've moved into their new situation or new living arrangement.
Yeah. Now, for some, do you think by retaining the family home, they're delaying the inevitable? Um, Maybe they should enjoy it for as long as they can. Or what have you seen there for people that have made the decision to stay? and long term, how have they felt about that?
Yeah, I mean, you know, this is a good question, and also brings up, when if you have a married couple, if a wife passes away, do they keep the house or do they move? Or if the husband passes away, do they does the wife keep the house or move? Right. So like
Right.
uh, traditionally they would have two different responses, right? And typically for the male is like remodel the house and then move, right? Right, trying to make it work and then move. But as people get older, mobility becomes a bigger concern, right?
Hmm.
So if you have a two-story house and you're worried about how do I go get up to the second floor and all that, that could be part of the equation. Proximity to family becomes even bigger part as you get older. So, maybe not when you're 70, but when you're 80, 85, you're gonna want you're gonna need a little bit more help. And being closer to family members as they've moved may be part of that equation. Oftentimes, the your neighbors that are there, you've known them for a long time, you have strong relationships, that social community is super strong. And moving later in life, it gets harder, right? So I don't know if that is as clear answer as you wanted, but it is a difficult situation. There's no right answer. It's on a person by person basis is what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah, I think that does kind of get at the heart of the question, Amar. I personally, I just think of, I know my neighborhood. I know, the places I shop, and the services that I visit, and you build up relationships with those over time. And in the times that I've moved in the past, we've kind of missed those shops that we used to shop in and the people that work there. And you have to start that process of creating those new relationships. And maybe as you're older, it's a little bit harder. You mentioned family in, your response as well. And just one of the things that's been on my mind is remote work is a lot more prevalent today than it used to be. And it looks like, at least for some industries, that's going to continue to be the trend long term. And I wonder if that will allow more families to stay together and live closer to each other, right? As opposed to, children having to move away for a job. Maybe it's more likely they can, live closer to where their parents were, and where they grew up. And that's just a good argument for having the space, right? If you're going to have family around.
Yeah, I think there's two factors here that I'd like to touch on. One is that even though new housing construction is down right at the current moment that we're recording this, multi-generational type housing is up significantly. So thinking of adding ADUs to existing house, adding different types. So I think living arrangements will change over time, right? Especially for the sandwich generation. The other thing is that uh, if the younger generations, for most of them, affording a house or with 7% mortgages and everything has become difficult. So your typical starter home, 3 bedroom, 2 bath, you know, that's pretty much their limit of what they can afford, and they're not going to look to expand out of that. Now, even people that can afford that, they may not want to expand out that because they feel their dollars are better spent on experiences, right? And so, from an older generation to having that space to accommodate and have that get together, I think it's going to be important and could potentially be part of the legacy component of the overall financial plan.
Yeah, Amar, when I read your notes on the legacy piece, not only are our homes such a big piece of our assets, right, when we retire, but today I think for younger people just starting out, it could be a little tougher. A lot of them may not be making as much as their parents were making, right, when they were at the same stage, and so that legacy piece may actually even be more important, moving forward than it has been in the past.
Yeah, absolutely. And everybody's situation's different. Everybody's, family dynamics are different, and what the values that we're trying to pass on could be different as well. So this is definitely an individual conversation. And I would say if you're watching this video and you're thinking about these type of things on your personal situation and would like a sounding board, please reach out to us.
Yeah, additionally, if you don't subscribe to our newsletter, it's a great source of market insights, investment strategies, and conversations like this. And so, I would also just recommend that you subscribe to our newsletter as well.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Thanks, Cary, for having this conversation, and stay tuned for our next episode.
Thanks, Amar.
Yep.